Welcome to Memorizing Scripture. My name is Gordon, and this is a memory verse podcast where we learn to memorize verses weekly. Last year when I started this podcast, I was really excited about studying and memorizing and had a really big heart for that. And life got busy. Imagine that. And so I wanted to keep doing it this year, and I had to scale it down. And so instead of giving a lot of podcasts throughout the week, we're just going to do one a week. And I hope you can join me, and I hope that I can stick with it again. But it's hard, between parenting and this just being a fun side thing. My goal and my heart, again, is for myself to help memorize Scripture, and I know there's a lot of people out there that need help as well. And just getting going, picking the right verses, figuring out what the meanings are or ways to help memorize them for yourself for later. It can be difficult. And I'm hoping that this podcast can help people just by quickly listening to it in the car. The supporting podcasts that are just the memory verses alone, you can just put those on repeat in the car. And hopefully by the end of this year, we can at least have a handful of memory verses. So this week, we're going to kick off the new year with Mark 12:30. Mark 12:30. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. When I was sitting in church one day listening to our pastor speak, he was a dynamic speaker. He is a dynamic speaker. Many of the things he said are very profound and true throughout the message. And this time, during the message, he was challenging us to live wholeheartedly, to live with everything. And listening, I thought, I've heard this before. And yes, I'm a Christian. I've accepted Christ. I live a good life. And I had been surrounded by church for many years. I played music in churches. I was employed as a worship leader of one church. I was employed as a video producer of another church. I started a worship academy at another church. And I felt like I was a proven follower of Christ. And then he paused. The pastor said, you either believe in God, that is, God is the God of the Bible, or you don't. You either believe God is who he said he is, and he did what he says he did, or you don't. You either live your life like you believe it or you don't. And this struck a resounding chord with me. Did I fully believe? Was I living like the Bible describes? And what does the Bible say? I had these questions, and this was a turning point for me. I had to know. I had to figure this out again. For some reason, what was in my heart was being awoken. And even after growing up in the church, after all the youth group nights and off the worship practices and rehearsals and worship nights and filming testimonies and meeting with pastors, and I still didn't know if I lived my life like I truly believed it or not. And I wouldn't go as far as saying that I wasn't saved through all this, but we have these doubting seasons. And this week's verse really challenges that mindset. It's a strong influence by saying you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. And I want to single out those different aspects of the human makeup, all the heart, soul, mind, and strength, because another way I like to think of it for this verse is with all your emotion, with all your spiritualness, with all your mentalness, with all your physicalness. And I think about that. I think now, from what that pastor said, how can I honor God with all of my emotions, with all my spirituality, with all my mind, and with all my body, all of me? And that's what the verse is originally asking, or originally saying. How do you love God with all of you? And so this is something I've asked myself many times, and I try to incorporate it when I'm being tempted with sin or just how I'm living my daily life. I ask myself these questions. What is my reaction when my kids write on the wall? Am I renewing my mind with the Bible to test the world's thoughts and opinions when I read the blogs or news articles or watch the news? Am I eating well? Am I respecting my body so I'm able to go and perform whatever God requires of me? And have I joined a church body even? Am I worshiping the Lord weekly just as he commands? Basically, am I loving and honoring and fearing God with everything I am and everything I have? And that's the question that I've asked myself. And so as we begin this new year, I want to challenge you guys as well. Have you loved God with everything you have? Have you really dug into the Bible and understand what that fully means? You either love God or you don't. And that's represented by your mind, your intentions, your words, and your actions. And so I pray that if you're wondering what the next step in your walk this year is, that you consider where you're at and love God with all of you. That God drives everything you do. And that you wake up asking God, what do you want to say to me today? And what do you want me to do today? Use this verse as a catalyst for that renewed commitment this year. All right. So let's say our memory verse again for this week. It's Mark 12:30. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. All right. Good luck. Thank you for listening this week. And until next time, continue to put on the mind of Christ.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Memorizing Scripture. I do hope that this content does help you draw closer to God. And if you enjoyed this podcast and want to help the impact of our show, please like, rate, review, comment, subscribe to this podcast. It does help get the word out, and I would truly appreciate it.